Hello everyone, my name is Bob, and today I am going to be going over all 64 killer add-ons in Dead by Roblox, and going over some good add-on synergies and good add-on combos for each killer as well. So let's get started. Okay, so first we have the add-ons for Trapper first. Now, up at S tier, we have the Iridescent Stone, which will reset traps every 30 seconds, and with the added bonus of all of your traps will actually start out armed. Then down in A tier, we have Fastening Tools. This just lets you set your traps 50% faster, which is really good, honestly. Uh, Now in B tier we have Loyalty. This will allow you to walk through your traps without getting stunned, but your trap will, however, disarm. Though it doesn't say it in the description, but that is just how it works. Mm, We also got Trapping Gauntlets. This will allow you to set your traps 25% faster. And then we have Trapper Sack, which allows you to carry 2 extra traps. However, you don't spawn with 2 extra, so you can carry up to 4, but you still spawn with 2. And then finally in C tier we have Trapper Bag, which just allows you to hold 1 extra trap. Now there are some decent add-on combos you can do with Trapper. Like you could use double trap set speed, which is really good in chase. Not only you minimize your time setting a trap by a huge amount, you can also use that haste in chase to give you an advantage. Or you could save time by placing traps at the start of the games. That way, maybe you could prevent a gen getting done. Because usually, when you play Trapper, you're probably gonna ideally want to set traps, like all your traps first, which you might get 2 or 3 gens done first, but just as long as you trap around the area that has the most generators, that doesn't really matter. Then you can just set up a snowball from there. Now, another good add-on combo, you could use Loyal Teeth and Iridescent Stone. That means your traps will reset automatically, so you can just set your important traps, and then those important traps will constantly rearm every 30 seconds. Only one at a time though. But then you can just use Loyal Teeth. Like let's say you could extend a loop with a trap, and then if a survivor doesn't expect it, you can just walk through the trap, and then ideally you just make the loop shorter for yourself, but the loop is still decently long for the survivor. So that tiny little bit of distance closing you get from that ideally could get you a hit. And now, lastly, a somewhat good generic add-on combo you could do for Trapper. You could do Fastening Tools with Trapper Sack. Now, this will allow you to carry 4 traps, and you get the added bonus of setting them quicker. So you could either just choose to set the traps you start with and then go collect your traps, or you can just choose to go collect the 2 extra traps with Trapper Sack and then just set up a big, huge area of traps just to like prepare a snowball for when you need it. Now up next we have the Hillbilly add-ons. Now up at S tier we have Tuning Kit. This basically just makes your move speed while you're chainsawing much faster, and I believe you also can charge your chainsaw quicker. But the downside to this is when you crash for a lot longer than usual. And in A tier we have Cooling Fan. This just increases your turn rate by like I think 30%. It's a pretty big turn rate increase. This I don't think it means the curve window turn rate. I just think it means the turn rate after. And we also have Dim Engravings. This just increases your chainsaw move speed by 20%, I believe. And it's just a good add-on in general. Then in B tier, we have Old Boots. This just makes your crash time reduced by 50%, which base kit is 4 seconds, I believe. And then with this add-on, it goes all the way down to 2 seconds. So a really good beginner add-on if you're trying to pick up Billy for the first time. And then in C tier, we have Rocket Fuel. This add-on, you no longer bump, like you can't crash into walls, you can't break pallets anymore, and your chainsaw does not injure survivors anymore. So, but however, you move way faster. So, but you can only this is basically a meme add-on. So you're pretty much limiting yourself to M1, but with just a very good map traversal tool. And then in D tier, we have tune-up and new gears. These add-ons basically just make your curve window have a higher sensitivity, but I really don't see the need in using these add-ons if you have high sensitivity already. Now there's several add-on combos that's really good for Billy. Like if you're an experienced Billy player, you could use tuning kit and doom engravings just to move really fast, make your chainsaw almost unreactable to a normal survivor. And ideally you can, but this is basically the add-on combo you would use if you're trying to like speed run a 4K or ideally just being really good in chase. Another good add-on combo for Billy would be Cooling Fan with Doom Engravings. This is just a basic add-on combo. It'll help you learn Billy really easily, and it's just ideally mostly just quality of life. Ideally, because you can move faster, so you can get around the map faster. You can make a chainsaw slightly more unpredictable and do tighter curves, and Cooling Fan just also helps out with that. So it's a really good synergy. And now we have Stalker add-ons. Sadly, Stalker only has 3 add-ons, but in A tier we do have Clown Mask, which makes your tier 3 duration last 25% longer, which if I'm not mistaken, I think base kit tier 3 lasts about 30 seconds. So you're increasing that by roughly like closer to 7.5 seconds, which honestly makes a really big difference when you're snowballing. And we also have Heart Locket, which just increases your stalk rate by 35%. And then in B tier, we have Memorial Flower, which just increases your stalk rate by 25%. So there's only really one good add-on, two good add-on combos you can use on Stalker. Now, obviously, you could use Clown Mask and Heart Locket, so that way you have a longer tier 3 and you can get your tier 3 faster. Or you could use Heart Locket and Memorial Flower, so you can just get your tier 3 very quickly without having any duration. Now here we have the Huntress add-ons. In S tier we have Infantry Belt, which allows you to hold 2 extra hatchets, and you start with 2 extra hatchets, which is really good. In A tier we have Itchy Hands, which allows you to reload 25% faster. Also can be really good. Now in B tier we have Rose Root, which just increases your hatchet speed by 20%. It could be alright if you're trying to go for a snipe, but your hatchets don't really go very far in general, so I wouldn't see a reason to use it. And in C tier we have Multi-Shot. This limits your hatchet capacity to 1 throughout the entire match. However, that 1 hatchet will instantly put anyone into the dying state regardless of healthy or injured. And the reason why I have this iridescent add-on so low is just the hatchet hitboxes aren't very, they're very tiny. You're probably not going to hit most of your hatchets, so I wouldn't see a reason to nerf yourself by having 1 hatchet instead of 5 or even 8. And then also in C tier we have Leather Loop, which just gives you 1 extra hatchet. Now some add-on combos, you could use Infantry Belt with Itchy Hands to have more hatchets and reload faster. So basically you essentially always have hatchets if you know where lockers are. And then you could also just use Infantry Belt and Leather Loop just to have 8 hatchets instead of 5, which also ideally reduces how long you're spending having to reload because you always have more hatchets. Now we have Wraith add-ons up at S tier. We have Windstorm Blood, which increases your cloak move speed by 15%. Really good. In A tier we have Serpent, which automatically makes you uncloak when you break a generator or a pallet or a wall. But however, you don't get the uncloak speed boost. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think you get the speed boost. And we also have Windstorm White, which increases your cloak move speed by 10%. Really solid add-on. Then B tier, we have True Ghost, which makes you fully invisible while cloaked. However, your speed boost when you uncloak is lessened, like you're not moving as fast, and the duration of it is also less. So ideally, it's basically just nerfing yourself if you're against survivors that are somewhat decent at the game. And then in C tier, we have Windstorm Mud, which just increases your cloak move speed by 5%. Now, Wraith has some pretty good add-on combos. You can combine Windstorm Blood with Windstorm White, which gives you 25% cloak move speed. So you can navigate the map faster if you're chasing a survivor while you're cloaked. You could cut them off faster. You have so much versatility with it. And then you could also use Windstorm Blood and Serpent, so that way you have the surprise factor of just breaking a pallet and automatically uncloaking, while you could also like move fast, like in general. And those are the only add-on combos I know of that are really good. Now up next we have the Nurse add-ons. All of Nurse add-ons are honestly really good, so it was really hard to rate these. But in S tier we have Dusty Book. This gives you an extra blink, so you can have 3 blinks. However, I believe they do recharge slower, so once you use all of your blinks, you're not going to be able to blink for a decent amount of time. And then A tier, we have Bonesaw Splinter, which makes your blinks go 20% further, which is really good. And then we also have Pocket Watch, which gives you 0.5 seconds before you fatigue after you blinked, which essentially allows you to charge your blink for longer if you think about it, but overall it's a solid add-on as well. Now in B tier we have Attacks at Respiration, which causes your blinks to recharge 20% faster. And then we have Silver Pendant, which your blinks will recharge slower. However, when you blink to a survivor and you hit them, you gain a blink back. So ideally, you could go for 1 blink with this add-on and then just go for a 2 blink immediately after. Now, ideally, the best add-on combo for Nurse is using the Bonesaw Splitter and Pocket Watch, which are obviously they're common, so you're gonna have a lot of them, but they're just really good in synergy with each other because your blinks go farther and you're gonna have more time to charge your second blink. And then you could also use Dusty Book and Attacks at Respiration because you're gonna have 3 blinks anyway, so you don't really need distance on them. But to counteract the debuff that you get with it, that's what Attacks at Respiration is gonna help. Now here we have Reaper add-ons. In S tier we have Coldest Touch, which allows you to the animation when you use your power is, I believe, 50% faster or somewhere around there, which is really good, which means you can get your haste faster, the survivors make less distance, and ideally it basically just counters holding W from Reaper. And we also have Well of Souls, which increases your shockwave size by, I think, 60% or somewhere around there. Also really good. It's really good if you're trying to actually hit multiple survivors with your power. In A tier, we have Kiss of Death. This makes you get 2 charges instead of 1 when you injure a survivor, which means you can use your power twice per injury, which is really good. And we also have Soul Food, which causes the Soulbind effect to last 75% longer, which is insane because the main counter of the Reaper is just getting into a locker. So if you just have this effect lasting for longer, that means survivors are probably more likely to be in a locker for longer as well, which means there's no generator progress getting done at all. Now in B tier we have Soul Fuel. This allows you to start with all 4 charges on your power, which can be really good, but then you're only having 1 add-on slot for either like faster animation or a bigger range. And then now we have Cold Touch. This makes your animation 25% faster, somewhere around there. and it's just really good for a common add-on. And now we have Polished Blade, which increases your shockwave size by 25% or 20%. Also really good. And in C tier, we have Pocket of Souls, which makes the Soulbind effect last 50% longer. Sorry. Now Reaper has some really good add-on combos, like you could use double animation speed, which is really strong in chase. However, you still have to work for your power, and you're more than likely not going to hit more than like 2 survivors unless they're all just really close together. You could also do double range, which is my personal favorite, because you're pretty much having your M2 cover, but pretty much all, like for small maps, that's pretty much the entire map, which is really strong. And probably another good add-on combo you could use as well as Souls with Coldest Touch. So that way you have a fast animation and a large range. So that way you're probably guaranteed to hit 2 survivors depending on the map, and they don't really make a lot of distance. And reminder, you do get haste every time you use your power. So ideally they're not making that much distance, and you could probably end up getting a few injuries with your power. Up next, we have Psychopath add-ons. Up in S tier, we have Sharpened Blade, which allows you to start the match at full power, so you can immediately use it. And you also get 15% faster passive charge rate, which is really good. In A tier, we have Bloody Shoes, which makes you move 6% faster when you're in power, which is also really strong. And we also have Pills, which makes your power last 25% longer. Also pretty decent on paper. And then in B tier, we have Rusted Blade. This just gives you more power for injuring survivors when you're out of power. And then in C tier, we have Broken Handle, which allows you to get more power for breaking breakable objects such as pallets and breakable walls. Now, ideally, there's probably only 2 good add-on combos for Psychopath. The first one, you could use Sharpened Blade with Bloody Shoes. So that you start with full power, and you also have that passive charge rate, and you just move faster. So if you see someone, don't be afraid to just immediately use power to catch up and potentially get an injury out of it. And then you can also use Sharpened Blade and Pills, so you start out with full power, and your power just lasts longer in general. So also don't be afraid to immediately use power if you see a survivor. Now up next we have Architect add-ons. Up at S tier we have Lighter Sledge, which allows your turn rate while in power to last 15, not to last, you get 15% more turn rate is what I'm going to say, which is insanely good. Now we also have Overcharge, which gives you 125% faster power charge, like charge rate, and your duration is increased by 200%, somewhere around there. It's also probably the best add-on for Architect because you can snowball really easily off of it. Now in A tier we have Deadlines. This makes you move 6 speed faster in power, which is equivalent to 3 pallet breaks. However, you don't get more speed for breaking pallets in return. And then we also have Architect's Design in A tier, which allows you to start with 75% power, and you just passively get power quicker. Now in B tier, we have Temper Tantrum. This gives your power 20% charge rate, which is not really that good. There's better add-ons. And then in C tier, we have Anger Management, which just gives you 200 more charges to your power, which is like 20% increase or something. It's really not a whole lot. Now the best add-on combos you can use is Lighter Sledge and Overcharge. This allows you to turn faster in power, easier to navigate, easier to play around tighter loops, and you're just in power for longer, so you can play hit and run, you could commit to 1 survivor, you could potentially get the entire team down with this add-on combo. It's that good. And then another good add-on combo we have is Lighter Sledge and Deadlines. So you can move faster. Ideally, I wouldn't play hit and run with this. I would just play strictly chase if you're using that combo, because your power lasts like around 40 seconds base kit, not a whole lot. You can only get like about 2 or 3 hits off maybe if you're lucky to have survivors nearby. But it's another good add-on combo. And then another good add-on combo, you could use Ladder Sledge Architect's design, so that way you can get some good early game pressure. And you could also use Overcharge and Deadlines if you really wanted to. You move way faster, and you're in power for way longer. So the only issue is your turn rate is going to be really slow, so it's really easy to avoid getting hit. Now, second to last killer we have is Ninja. Now, up in S tier, we have Kenjutsu. This pretty much is every add-on combined into one. Your dash speed is faster, your charge speed is slightly faster. It's pretty much everything just toned down into one add-on. Now, in A tier, we have Whetstone. This just allows your dash to go 20% further. Honestly, probably this one of the strongest add-ons for Ninja. Now, in B tier, we have Boryaku. This allows your dash cooldown to be 20% less, which is also pretty dang strong. And then in C tier, we have Bajutsu, which is your minimum dash range is increased slightly, and your wipe cooldown is decreased, so you can pretty much get 2 taps really easily with this add-on. Now in B tier, we have Tsukimaki. This just makes your charge speed 20% faster, which is pretty dang good combined with some of these add-ons. And then we have Shinobi Eri, which you crouch, your move speed while you're crouched is faster, and you're also able to see survivor auras that are nearby. Not really that strong, but I could see a decent combo with it. And then in C tier we have Chimon. This just makes your crouch speed faster. Now, some good combos you could use. You could use Kenjutsu and Tsukimaki just to have a really fast charging power, so survivors won't be able to hold W as far. You could also use Kenjutsu and Whetstone just to have a really fast and long dash. You could use Bajutsu and Kenjutsu. Pretty much all of these add-on combos, you're going to be using Kenjutsu. And now lastly, we have Phantasm add-ons. Up at S tier, we have Remnant from the Past. Now pretty much what this does is your wave, you don't send out a wave, however, when you do use your power, you will spawn an after image on top of you. So pretty much this changes your playstyle to be more anti-loop focused rather than just chase focused, which is really good. In A tier, we have Poltergeist in the Jar. This pretty much lets your wave block windows for 5 seconds if the wave touches a window. And however, I'm pretty sure survivors cannot get infected by your wave with this add-on. And then we also have Haunted Power Cord. This makes 2 after images spawn by uncompleted generators anytime you hook a survivor. Also a pretty decent add-on, especially when you get into late game when you only have like 1 or 2 generators left. Now in B tier we have Dark Orb. This basically makes it so that an after image immediately spawns when a survivor gets hit by a wave, and they cannot spawn any more after images until you use that after image. And then we also have Anxiety Pills. This just makes the initial after image spawn slightly faster. And then also the last add-on in B tier is Nightmare Fuel. This makes your teleport sound 75% quieter, and you get granted undetectable for 10 seconds. So it's really good if you're playing stealth builds. And then lastly, in C tier, we have Jar of Souls. Dark Souls, sorry. And all this does is just make your wave move 20% faster. So not really very good, especially when some of these other add-ons are just much better. Now, some good add-on combos. You could use Haunted Power Cord with Poltergeist in the Jar. So that way you have anti-loop, and you'll still just spawn after images anytime you hook someone, so it's not like you lose after images forever. And another good add-on combo you could use is Poltergeist in a Jar combined with Remnant, not Remnant from the Past, Dark Orb, so that way you can cause survivors to leave behind an after image because it doesn't actually infect them. It just causes an after image to immediately spawn. And with the added bonus from Poltergeist in a Jar to block windows, so you're just a anti-loot machine. And that is all of the add-ons covered with some of the best combos for every killer